Right, so we're moving to the third quadrant now. The third quadrant. Can anybody share with us what angles are we talking about? When we talk about the third quadrant, what angles are we talking about? When we're talking about the first quadrant, we're talking about acute angles. When we're talking about the second quadrant, we're talking about angles between 90 degrees and 180. So when we're talking about the third quadrant, what angles are we talking about? The third quadrant. Anybody? What angles are we talking about in the third quadrant? I repeat, in the first quadrant, these are angles from 0 to 90. These are acute angles. 90 is the right. In the second quadrant, angles between 90 and 180. What about the third quadrant? That's where we are now. What angles are we talking about? Someone said 180 to 220. Anybody would like to? Or 270. Okay, so yeah, you are correct. Angles between 180 and 270. This little right angle triangle here is missing a little labeling. I think it's missing one labeling. It's missing one labeling. Let me put alpha there. Can anybody tell me what is missing in my labeling of this right angle triangle in the, third quadrant? What labeling is missing? Anybody? What labeling is missing in this right angle triangle there in the third quadrant? The sign for the opposite to the angle. Okay. As I say, always try to practice not saying the opposite. Okay. Try to always say opposite to. Okay, that's why when you see I am doing this with the, secondary school, the high schoolers, that's where it's starting, is how you were initially, exposed to it. It's not the opposite. This is misleading. There is no such thing as the opposite. It's opposite to the angle, because this side can become opposite you. That horizontal line can become opposite. Okay, bear that in mind. If I take alpha and I put alpha there, then this horizontal line becomes opposite. Okay? So please bear that in mind. So as she's saying now, the side opposite to alpha is missing a labeling because it was not labeled. There is a sign opposite to alpha. What sign must I give the side opposite to alpha? The side adjacent to alpha is negative. The hypotenuse is positive, always positive. The side opposite to alpha in the third quadrant, what sign must we give it? Anybody? Positive or negative? This side here that is opposite to alpha, should we give it a positive sign or negative sign? Anybody? Someone said a negative sign. Why a negative sign? Why must we give this side opposite to alpha in the third quadrant a negative sign? Anybody? Why must this side be negative? The side opposite to alpha in the third quadrant. Why is it negative? Anybody? We are waiting. Anybody can tell us why? Okay, so this side opposite to alpha in the third quadrant is negative because there are different ways of saying it, but we can basically see we are below the number line. Okay, we're on the negative side of the y-axis, if you want to put it that way. Okay, so below the number line, below the horizontal number line, we are on the negative side of the y-axis. Above the horizontal number line is the positive side of the y-axis. You can put a little positive there by if we don't see a sign, then it's positive. Okay, and on the left, on the right side, all right, x is positive. So this is why, okay, that this is grouped. The side that is opposite to alpha in the third quadrant is positive. Okay. Sine is negative in the third quadrant because sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The side opposite to the angle is negative. The hypotenuse is positive or negative divided by a positive or negative. Cosine is also negative in the third quadrant because the side adjacent to the angle is negative. The hypotenuse is always positive. Negative divided by positive is negative. But tan is positive in the third quadrant, so you can prove it. If you type tan of 250, so also get a positive number. Tan of 250. Tan of 250 equal positive 2.74. The reason why is because the side opposite to the angle is positive. The side adjacent to the angle is positive or is negative, sorry. The side opposite to the angle is negative. The side adjacent to the angle is negative. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So therefore, tan alone is positive in the third quadrant. Let's go to the fourth quadrant and see what happened in there. The fourth quadrant are dealing with angles between 270 and 360. Back to the origin, circular motion. Okay. So we are in the fourth quadrant now. And we're using the Roman numerals to number. Okay. So the Roman numerals still have some use. We're using the Indian Arabic numerals. But the Roman numerals still have some use. We're in the fourth quadrant. Okay. In the fourth quadrant, the side opposite to the angle is negative. The side adjacent to the angle is positive. Okay. So in the fourth quadrant, and the hypotenuse is always positive. So which of the trig ratios is positive in the fourth quadrant? Anybody can share with us which of the trig ratios? There is only one of them that is positive in the fourth quadrant. Which one is it and why? The side opposite to the angle is negative, but the side adjacent to the angle is positive. Which trig ratio is positive in the fourth quadrant? Anybody? Which trig ratio is positive in the fourth quadrant? Think about it. Is it sine, is it cosine, or is it tangent? Cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant because cosine no. So that's very correct. Cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant because cosine is actually defined by the side adjacent to the angle divided by the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is positive, the side adjacent to the angle is positive. So therefore now cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. Okay.